You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
To another episode of the Red Moon Podcast, live every single Tuesday night, right here on all your favorite social media accounts. We got the YouTubes, we got Twitter, we got Rumble.
Let's get ready to rumble!
That's right. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian,
and
Bob Asman.
Bob Asman's back, guys. Oscar winner Bob Asman is joining us tonight.
We wish.
Have you been working on any new films?
Maybe.
Best sound over there. Telling you. I think he won for. Oh, is that coffee?
it's good coffee.
It's good coffee.
That Technivorm doesn't
You make a
disappoint
good
you.
cup of coffee.
It's
You're right, Roger.
They use the right amount of grams. On the scale.
Bob Asman and Roger Deakins.
Roger Deakins.
I bet they go on benders together all the time.
Roger.
There it is. That's not Roger Deakins.
No, we like Roger Deakins.
Yeah, we like Bub.
We like Bob better.
I was going for
Tak Fujimoto.
something from episode 1 since it was Roger.
Yeah.
But,
I need to put that one on. It's working. There you go. I want to put on there. I heard a good one from another podcast.
Yeah?
And we should definitely have it.
We should just steal people's stuff.
Willy
their
Wonka.
ideas. Oh, yeah, there's all
Good
kinds of...
day, sir.
Oh,
that
yeah.
that was a good one.
That's
that is
okay.
good.
And you get nothing.
That one's that one I like.
That
yes.
one's a good one.
Yes.
I feel like we would use that one a lot.
That
on
would
the
be
show.
great.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one.
There are some good ones in Willy Wonka for sure.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
For
I mean,
sure.
honestly, just film history
For sure.
all over the place.
Yep.
Maybe Terminator, and you
For
throw
sure.
that on there. I'll be back. Hasta la vista.
Come
Yeah,
with me
babe.
if you want to live.
That one. Yep.
She goes
I don't know.
straight for the dog.
Here's
Goes
the
straight
thing,
for the
though.
bathroom.
Every
Just
time
open the door.
She's
It's
like,
okay.
I'm gonna go
The-
get
I see the door open.
The
I'm
garbage
like,
can's on the. I put it on the sink when
Oh,
I came
thank
out.
you.
so
I was
yeah.
gonna say, I'm gonna have to get
She
that during the
can't-
review.
She can't knock that over. We're good.
Good,
Yeah.
good.
I have Arnold Schwarzenegger or the Terminator is my Waze voice.
Nice.
Oh,
So
really?
he's like, turn left if you want to live.
Well,
awesome.
Keith's been sending us all these Arnie Pop
The
deep fakes.
Yeah.
They're so good. Like the Munchkin one, I couldn't help. I saw that, and it's the ad libs he adds.
Lollipop
It's not
Guild.
just that, like
Yeah.
the little ad libs, like as it's cutting out, you hear him go, "I could see up her dress." I was like, it gets me. It's so great.
Just look up Arnie Pop on Google. And
Yeah.
you'll
You
find
know what I
it.
watched the other night? I watched Commando.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's on like
80s, right?
I think it's on
Is that
Netflix
90s
right now.
or 80s?
It was the
80s?
It had to have been 80s.
I'm pretty sure it's
Alyssa
80s.
Milano was like 8 years old in that movie.
Oh, my
Oh,
gosh.
wow.
Yeah.
Holy
Wow.
crap.
Yeah.
It's like
Wow.
that's like Natalie Portman and what was that one where she was like a little girl and like an assassin?
Oh yeah,
So
the one that everybody says groom was
yeah, grooming.
Dirt-
Yeah, well,
dirt,
here's
yeah.
the thing. She hasn't aged.
Yeah, I know.
She's the same age.
Looks exactly.
It's
the
really
same.
funny because
Crazy.
even though
Forever.
Alyssa Milano was like 8, it's like every time Arnold had a gun, she was just like, those kill people.
Oh wow! So
She put those away. She was an activist
She was
then.
even then on
Yeah.
on screen an activist, and now she's telling us how to save the animals.
Save the animals.
That's right, and we're gonna save cinema with this week's podcast. Because,
Cinema.
man, do we need a resurrection of actually good old filmmaking?
Mel
because
Gibson.
the superheroes just can't be depended on anymore.
Tom Cruise started it, and we're going to finish it.
Well, he apparently says Flashpoint. I mean, he cold called the director and said it's one of the best films he's ever seen.
Yeah, he got an early
Well, I hope
viewing
it's
of it.
true.
Yeah.
I hope so because DC needs something.
Yeah.
They obviously
They need a
didn't
win.
They didn't win this week at the box office. Well, they won the box office,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was a low estimate as to what they were
It's-
hoping
yeah,
for.
Considered it's going to be so far their lowest profiting, or not profiting, just lowest intake on a DC film they're projecting.
So Shazam, Fury of the Gods is definitely not the one. I mean, we're going to have a review here in a sec.
and this does tie into the headlines too, so we'll get into I think some of our thoughts on why
Yeah.
when we get there as well.
We'll probably end up tying them all together. That's what we do best. It's all oh no, he's looking for one.
No, I'm not.
He was
faked you out.
He was looking for a
You remember those days?
Yeah.
Psych.
Psych.
Oh, what was it? No, one of my favorite was, and I can't believe they even thought this was clever then. It was on an old Disney Channel original movie, Brink. Throwing it back.
The movie's named Brink.
James Von Denton, I think that was his name.
I don't know.
Or no, is it?
I mean, I know who you're talking about, but I
can't remember. But
it's one of those like
it was one of those movies that was made for like a sports.
It was a 90s. It was definitely a 90s.
Every kid who saw it wanted to skate right after they saw it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Tony Hawk was big back then. So,
but he was not.
He was skateboard. Though.
Yeah.
This was actual roller skating.
Big difference.
There is a big difference.
Come on.
But still, the 90s, 80s was more the roller skating. 90s is when you start getting into the.
But the thing was, is there was this part
all that stuff
where he's doing. He remember he's what they called a soul skater in the movie. He only did it because he loved it. But then he had to make money for his family.
Yeah.
So he went to be a pro skater.
Which is just,
And he's trying to hide it from everybody.
Anytime you make money off of a talent that's evil.
Well, of course. You're corporatized at that point.
Capitalism's bad.
That's right. You don't make money off your passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at all this.
You're supposed to be miserable and not make money.
Yeah.
So Tony Hawk was a sellout then.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. They're all sellouts.
It's like he was a soul skater, and then the next thing you know, he's in video games and stuff, and now you're
no.
sellout.
Skateboarding, you can be corporate.
Oh,
Skate,
just roller
inline
skating.
skates. No. Yeah, soul skaters. Okay, come on. And then they were like Team Pup and Suds. Anyways.
Yeah, I just where we're going with this at all.
I have no idea.
Psych.
Yeah, that's how it started. That's how it started.
That's where I'm going. So he gets home trying to hide like that he's been doing this corporate skating on the side, and his sister's out there, and she's like, "What's in the bag? You came home with more stuff than you left with." And he goes, "None ya." She's like, "None ya," and he goes, "None ya business."
Yeah.
Oh wow.
It was delivered.
That's where it started.
Yeah,
beautifully.
That was. I don't know if that's where it started or if it had already started, and Brink was just like, "Oh, this is catching on. Watch, we'll be cool."
Right.
None ya.
And the funny thing was, is they caught on after it was long gone. It was already
your
gone.
knowledge of Disney stuff.
That's what I grew up on.
Just astounds
Just-
me.
yeah.
I never watched
I mean, it was
Disney Channel.
Disney Channel stuff
when I was a
yes,
kid.
yeah.
No.
When we got cable at our house, Disney was the default channel in my room. I just always kept it on
Yeah.
there. I'd watch
I guess that's
Smart
why
Guy.
I'm so corrupt because
Yeah.
my parents let me watch stuff I should have never watched.
Oh, I did too.
And that's the thing. It's like I didn't want to watch Disney Channel when you could watch Top Gun and watch him have sex with this woman in his silhouette for like 15
I watched
minutes.
Both. Yeah, you watch both.
Yeah.
Disney wasn't my default though.
Nickelodeon was
Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network.
Nickelodeon
was
was up until I was a preteen. Then I had to elevate. I had to get above
No, I
the
agree with
cartoons.
that. Like I used
So you traded in GAC for Halloween Town.
but I don't know that.
Right. It was called GAC.
It was.
That's right.
Yeah, the slime was
Yes.
GAC.
I remember that.
Remember you used to buy that stuff.
Yeah.
You would go to Toys R Us and
I
just
was
try
convinced
to get
that
GAC.
was what they used in the movie Power Rangers. The Power Rangers
the
movie.
ooze,
The
yeah.
ooze was GAC.
No,
it was just
because
purple.
Nickelodeon can't. They
No.
wouldn't
The
allow
green didn't brainwash you. If it was purple, it was going to brainwash
Yeah.
you.
Well, the original GAC was orange.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, GAC was orange.
Yeah.
And then they had the slime. The slime came from Double Dare.
Nickelodeon slime was
different.
yeah.
That was
than
Double
the
Dare.
GAC.
Yeah.
Oh.
The GAC was
that
like
makes sense
neon
'cause
orange.
The Nickelodeon logo was orange. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Man.
Double Dare brought the slime.
And I
Yeah.
loved, especially
See,
Nickelodeons in the
See,
summer.
I could go with Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon.
over
Hey,
Disney.
dude, salute
Hey,
your
dude,
shorts.
salute your shorts. Yeah.
Guts. Hidden
Hidden Temple, yeah.
Yeah.
Legend of the Hidden Temple.
Yes.
Do you
yes.
have it? Guts. Great shows.
Stickly.
Oh, it's fantastic. But then I had to move on. And I moved on to Lizzie McGuire because she was cute.
I did watch Steven. There were select things on Disney. Like I
And
watched Even Stevens, Boy Meets
Even
World.
Stevens was
No,
hilarious.
Boy Meets World didn't start on Disney. You know, we're supposed to be talking about a movie, but
We
we
are.
still aren't 10 minutes
we're-
in yet.
we're 1
so
minute
we're kind
shy.
of,
Yeah, maybe
Pretty
we should
good.
get there though.
Yeah,
I
that's
guess
good.
we're time. We're time. Okay, here it is. Without further ado, we've dragged it on our intro a little bit too much, but we're talking about culture. Let's get on to our movie review of Shazam! Psych! Fury of the Gods.
DC Comics have released their first film since announcing that James Gunn and Peter Safran would take over as co-CEOs of DC Studios. An announcement that came shortly after the release of DC's last film, Black Adam, which, while generally liked by critics and audiences, failed to turn a profit. With recent announcements about Gunn and Safran's future releases seemingly suggesting a reboot of the DCU, fans were confused as to what this meant for the few films still set to release, with certain films confirmed to still be releasing. Now we reach opening weekend of Shazam, Fury of the Gods, sequel to 2019's Shazam, and after seeing the movie, I can say my feelings about DC's new direction are just as mixed as ever. Starring Zachary Levi as the heroic alter ego of Billy Batson, with David F. Sandberg returning to direct, Shazam 2 attempts to further the lore of the title character, while going bigger. Bringing in more of the Greek mythology which has tied together much of DC so far, from Aquaman to Wonder Woman and Black Adam, Shazam 2 weaves itself even tighter into the fabric of the old guard. What was started by Snyder and tweaked by Walter Hamada. The film keeps its focus on family, even going so far as to acknowledge its theme by mocking the Fast and the Furious franchise. The film's emotional crux hinges on Billy's fear of abandonment and his relationship with his foster family, as he faces the daughters of Atlas, who have their own family drama to contend with. Blending a comedic tone with darker comic book elements, Fury of the Gods attempts to follow in the trajectory of the first film, but is often goofier and more abstract than its predecessor. This could have been fine if the movie ever slowed down and took some time to let serious issues settle and emotions sink in. But in the same vein as Taika Waititi doubling down on the humor from Thor Ragnarok in Thor Love and Thunder, Sandberg doubles down on the comedic and sillier aspects of the first Shazam. While nowhere near as egregious as Love and Thunder, the film suffers from not being as serious when needed. The worst offender of this is Billy's characterization, as he goes from immature but streetwise kid to a self-centered dimwit whose incompetence creates the problems he must luck his way out of until he learns wisdom by the film's end. Yes, Billy does learn over the course of the film, but Sandberg created character growth by destroying the growth the character already achieved through the last movie. This is a crucial mistake superhero movies continue to make, and one we've seen Marvel commit throughout multiple films. Characters learn an important lesson only to regress at the beginning of their next film, so they can learn the same lesson all over again. This doesn't mean that Fury of the Gods is never entertaining, however. While not all jokes land, it is still often funny, with a few solid gutbusters. Helen Mirren chews the scenery and is fun to watch, though opposite of her is Lucy Liu, whose performance is every bit as painful as Mirren's is fun. While the emotional story could have been better polished, at least there are real stakes created, and the film, while one of DC's silliest, does still allow for some dark moments. By the movie's end, Shazam! Fury of the Gods struck me as a mildly entertaining superhero flick that has just a few too many faults to overlook. Add on top of this how much it connects itself to all of what DC has set up so far, with still no clear indicator of how these last few leftover films will matter to Gunn and Safran's new DCU, or if they will even matter at all, and I was left underwhelmed. The movie at its best is just average, but feels almost pointless now. I give Shazam! Fury of the Gods 2.5 out of 4 stars.
There you have it, 2.5 out of 4 stars for Shazam!
Yeah.
I was hoping to turn into something there.
It wasn't like, I was entertained for the most part. It just had a lot of flaws that it's just another stereotype. It's a movie. I said that during the review. It's a movie. Yeah. and that's what it is. Like, I mean, it's just, we're going to talk about superhero fatigue later, and I think that's part of it. Is not so much that I don't want to see superheroes anymore. It's just they're all the same. All these, like, there's nothing in this movie that I was like, oh, this set itself apart from any other super movie I've seen. Yep. It didn't, and in fact, on top of the fact that there wasn't anything new with the faults, like some of the jokes that land flat, or some of the fact that the lead character is now just kind of a bumbling idiot, whereas he was immature in the first movie. Yes. Yep. But he wasn't, like, he was still witty and crafty.
They went out of their way to make sure in the first film that he wasn't a dimwit, that he was crafty and manipulative.
Sure, like, again, immature because he's a child.
Well, but also very fully aware of his purpose and driven to find his mom and his birth mother. And it was like, he doesn't show any short-sightedness. If anything, he shows that he is a little bit more intelligent, and that he can handle
if they
the
had built
responsibility.
on that better, because the whole point of this is him having like the abandonment issues and he doesn't want to lose his family. That makes complete sense to me.
That was fine.
But they didn't actually extrapolate on any of that. They just made that his character flaw that causes all these problems. But I didn't feel like the emotion, like to the same depth as the first movie where he is trying to find his mom and he does find his family. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, so now he has this fear of he don't want to lose this family the way he lost his mom. But you don't really, that's just the setup to cause problems, and then you don't really, other than like this big kumbaya moment at the end, I'm just like, that's not a satisfying
there was a
conclusion to all
I
this.
felt like they tried to set up even early on in the film this sense of like, now that the whole family are superheroes, he's there trying to be the leader and trying to rein them in to work together. And there's a couple of moments where he's like trying to get them together to come to, like an agreement or a plan, and they're off trying to do their own thing. And it was like, I was hoping that by the end of the film, he would be the linchpin that would like bring them together finally to work as a family, and not just not just the family of children, but the family of superheroes.
Yeah.
And that never happens.
Show why
So
he
it's like,
deserves to be the leader.
Yeah.
Because you're really right. They really don't ever make a case for why he deserves to be.
Well, the only
on
reason
top.
they do, and a minor spoiler, nothing too major, but they kind of lean into he's willing to sacrifice himself for his family. And I just thought that's been a cheap ploy that's played way too often in
at
movies
this point,
these days.
What hero is it? Like a real hero we know are like, that's kind of a trope of heroes now, is they are willing to sacrifice themselves.
Right.
Well, yeah. If you look at your actual real world heroes like soldiers and firemen and policemen, like yes, they're willing to put their lives on the line, but he's not willing to do that until the final 15 minutes of the movie.
Well, and even when he does, it's like the jig is up because we know it's a superhero film.
Yeah.
He's coming back.
It's a tired formula. It's one of those things where it's like, it's fine. I'm perfectly okay with you wanting to display the hero willing to make an ultimate sacrifice, but you have to build up to that through the characters and the emotion. Otherwise, it is just tired. Like when Iron Man snaps his fingers at the end of Endgame, there's all this backstory and emotional baggage attached to that moment that makes it emotionally satisfying. Just having a superhero sacrifice themselves at this point is just like, okay, we kind of expect that of you. If there's no emotional connection, we don't care.
Well, the growth of his character too is something that this movie lacks, and like we were talking about before, and you said in your review too. But it's, if you compare these, and we hate to like compare DC to Marvel and all that because it's supposed to be
inevitable.
But if you look at Thor Ragnarok and you see Thor finally becoming the king and the god that he's supposed to be, and I mean his world is destroyed and he's willing to let that happen so that he can save his people, but then he regresses in Thor Love and Thunder back to a child, jackass again.
Honestly,
it's like this movie was the same way,
in the same way that Shazam does in this film. He regresses in that way, and I
don't think it's as bad, but it's still a problem.
Oh no. Thor Love and Thunder was way worse. And I will say this movie, I mean, we gave it 2.5 4 stars. We're being more critical. I walked out having enjoyed this way more than Ant-Man. Ant-Man Quantumania was god awful and full of just so many just tired.
So this isn't a terrible
tropes.
movie. It just has a lot of the flaws that we're seeing in every superhero movie right now.
Correct. And I'm just like, again, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more in the headlines as to possible faults this movie is suffering from at the box office. But it's like, you kind of. It's a tired formula in going in and expecting to see the next evolution and then immediately be disappointed with, oh, this is just another little pinpoint in their timeline to say, well, this event happened, and maybe to introduce some other new minor / major characters or tie in this superhero with other major superheroes in the universe. And it's like you just kind of walk out like there was no point to this story.
Yeah.
There was no reason for it to be told other than to be a cash grab. And that's unfortunately where a lot of these superhero films are fitting into that category.
Well, I feel like this one has like double that problem in the fact that you could see they're clearly connecting it to other projects, but because we don't know how any of these remaining movies are going to tie into the new DCU that Gunn and Safran are making, if they even do at all, it's like, okay, so we have these connective threads that connect it to all of the previous stuff.
I wanted to go into this on headlines.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
okay.
But it's still a fault of the movie. It's just one of those things where it's like, it's connecting itself to what came before, but we know a lot of what came before is being rebooted now. So it's one of those things where you watch the movie and maybe it's a piece of a puzzle, but then you're like, okay, but does it even matter? And that kind of takes away some of the enjoyment, because it's like, I'm sorry, I don't have a reason to feel invested.
Some of the entertainment value is the fact that you are looking forward to where it's going. And I feel like this is one of those movies that's kind of up in the air. Is it going to go anywhere, or is this just all going to restart?
Well, again, you don't care about the characters if none of these characters, like if they reboot and Zachary Levi doesn't come back, if none of these characters come back.
Not just the main characters, but even, there are post-credit scenes, and there's things that you see in the post-credit scenes that may end up going absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Well,
It'd be like them showing Thanos at the end of some of the Marvel films, and then he never ends up being the big bad guy.
Yeah, then they just reboot.
Well, and it's funny because they even did this with the first film. I watched the first film just before going to see this one, and I didn't see the end credit scene.
Yeah,
but I found it funny. Again, not going to spoil anything, but if you've seen the first Shazam and you did watch the end credit scene and you were hyped, like a lot of people were back when it first came out. Keith even said the ending scene to this one was just a further tease, another dangling of the carrot
from
with
the first
no more iteration on actually advancing the ball, like moving the ball forward. So I'm just sitting here thinking, again, it ultimately comes down to, I think, a lack of, people caring about these characters simply because they don't know if they should invest that time and effort into caring, because they don't know if this is the end of the road for them. And ultimately, I think the movie as a whole, I mean, any movie, even this is what the Marvel phase, the first few phases got right. I mean, even the bad ones, they focused on singular stories, and the collective stories were the ones where they came together in Avengers, or the big, huge mega blockbusters where all of them were coming. But the smaller stories were supposed to be intimate enough that we got to know these characters on a deeper level that made us care for the big extravaganza that we got in all the Avengers films.
The nice thing about
you've not had that at all with DC, which hence the reboot coming. But again, a problem with this is you watch the first Shazam and it had that. You could tell they were starting to try to right the course and right the ship in the direction of, okay, now we're going to focus on these individual superheroes to make you want to invest in them. And they went the exact opposite with this one. They tried to cram in way too much with regard to adding in more lore, but then also fell short on the emotional elements of the Foster family and what that meant to, Shazam's character and Billy Batson. And it's like you said, there were certain themes that were like, man, if they had just explored this deeper, it would have been great.
Within this movie, and I think, again, and we're probably inching even further in towards headlines, but I think just going back to, like I said, with the emotional and the character development and how they keep kind of resetting these character arcs back to zero, I think that is what you've seen with the whole Infinity Saga, where you look at Iron Man 1, 2, 3, Thor 1, 2, 3, Captain America, all three of them. You can see their character development and how Iron Man goes from being the selfish guy to the guy willing to make a sacrifice. How Captain America goes from being the guy who always needs to fight a war to learning that maybe it's okay to have peace. And it's one of those things where those character developments over their individual movies is what adds to the overall, like, larger movies when you get there. And when you have movies like just with Marvel, that's what Marvel's been terrible about in Phase 4, and what DC has done poorly, both of them right now, is the fact that these standalone movies they're just popcorn flicks with no substance. And once you get that, you stop caring about the characters. So then when you get to the team up, you don't care about the team up either, because none of the characters matter.
Martin Scorsese hit the nail on the head, and as soon as he let the cat out of the bag and said, yeah, they're just fun roller coaster rides, they all decided to become one.
Yeah.
And that's exactly,
really
I mean,
rather than proving wrong, they were just like, okay, yeah.
And how many people, just to further that analogy, how many people like to ride the same ride over and over and over again?
Yeah,
it's like,
well, here's the thing.
Come on, that's what
I
we're
don't mind
experiencing.
that if I've had a year off because we go into the winter, and you're not going to the amusement park all the time. But it's like next year comes around, maybe I want to ride it again. It's like when you have 4 or 5 different movies dropping or series dropping like Marvel. Let's just, you know what?
Yeah, headlines.
We're getting in there.
I think there's nothing much to really say about Shazam.
Well, because we're talking about superhero movies now as a whole.
Yeah.
The thing is 2.5 star out of 4 stars is not terrible. I would say it's worth a watch. But again, what we're about to do a deeper dive into with the superhero film franchises on both DC and Marvel.
Because really the only faults of Shazam, I think, are, like, again, the faults on a larger scale that all of these movies are doing.
So let's go ahead and get into our headlines and roll that beautiful open. It's like he's scheming over
I
there.
know, I'm just messing with him.
Man, he is just like a little rascal.
Thought he was
You're a little rascal.
making fun of me.
He types it over there, and then I
typing
see
things.
it. Well, no, he's typing it over there, and then I see it over here. It's amazing.
I can't. You know what?
Technology, man. We're gonna talk about that later too.
Oh, we got a good multimedia segment tonight.
Share the load.
That's what I'm trying to do.
I ain't gonna lie. It's like when I say Little Rascal, I can't help but think of that
Alfalfa.
movie. Well, that, but Crash
I
Into
got
Me
a pickle.
Oh,
by
Dave Matthews
Dave
Band.
Matthews. He's like, hike up your skirt a little more.
Yeah.
He's like, you little rascal. He says rascal in that line or in that song
Yeah, you
somewhere.
little rascal.
Does he?
He doesn't say little rascal. He,
He just
says
says
rascal. Yeah.
No little. When
I
I
don't
hear
remember
Little
that.
Rascal, I think of the Little Rascals.
Yeah, you think of Alfalfa and Marla. Is it Marla?
Marla, yeah.
Oh, he says you're the
Darla,
you're the
Darla.
dirty
Darla,
rascal.
Darla.
That's what he says.
Dirty Rascal.
Dirty
You're
rascal.
the dirty rascal.
And I'm
Yeah.
something in the
And
castle.
I'm the king of the castle.
That's it.
You're the dirty
King of
rascal.
the castle. King of the castle.
It's
And
such
what
a good
happened
song.
to America?
I thought you were gonna say what happened to Dave
just with all
Matthews.
this, I'm thinking of
It's like
Little
he got
No,
woke.
But
That's
what
what
I'm
happened.
saying.
Question applies.
I'm like, yeah, because I was thinking, like, we had Little
Yeah.
Rascals, we had great Dave Matthews song. You said
No.
King of the Castle, and it made me think of Borat.
Well, wait.
And, you know, that was back when Sacha Baron Cohen was actually funny, and I'm like, everybody just got uber political and crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
you sent
And
the
it sucks
article
now.
about Jimmy Kimmel hosting the Oscars.
Yeah.
And the prompter went down, and the only joke he could come up with was a woke
Was
joke.
the
Well,
January 6th? Yeah, because they didn't even mention it in the article. I thought that was funny. I just remembered that was when he did that because it was editing.
I think
said,
it's
They said
BS.
the teleprompter went down when he was going to announce the editing category, so he went off script. And they
Talking about Tucker Carlson editing the January 6th
Yes,
footage.
yes, yes. But they only mentioned the joke he made about, like, you know, editing your parents' text. They didn't even mention in the article that he made that January 6th joke. It's like, huh, that's funny, because I remember specifically that is when he made that joke because they were editing the January 6th footage. So I'm just like, huh. Even
And
the media won't even comment on the fact that
part of me thinks
they said he nailed it, though.
That-
He
well, of
he nailed-
course.
You know,
They
the
backed him up.
teleprompter went down and he nailed it off script.
well, of course, he did their
Worst
bidding.
joke of the night.
Basically, what it was is the Oscars were trying to be clean this year and avoid that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you could tell from
Yeah,
early on
all
in the
of
show.
the actual written jokes had none of that in there.
And so I think a little bit of it is like, we're glad he went there, but we're going to say, oh, we didn't
Yeah.
plan it.
Yeah, it
It's like,
wasn't
he went
scripted.
off script.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyways,
Sorry.
to continue on with headlines.
Yeah,
No,
that rubbed me the
I
wrong
kinda
way
did
too
that.
when I saw that. No, but when I saw that article, I was like, oh, so the best joke he can come up with,
Of course,
on the spot
they're all
was a
woke
political
and
joke.
they're all to
yeah.
the left. It's no secret now. Barney Frank is doing. Is it Barney Frank? Yeah,
Barney Fife.
he's doing the Daily Show like as a fill-in host because ever since Trevor Noah has
They
left,
haven't had a-
they
yeah,
haven't
they
had
haven't
a, they've
hired one
had all these rotating hosts and I'm
Yeah.
like, all they're getting are like terrible dried up political
Yes.
figures that aren't funny.
Yeah.
like this it's
It's terrible.
what the
Yeah,
hell has
it's
happened
sad.
to America?
I
You're
know.
right. You're right.
I know.
All right. We know what's happened to
I want the
superhero
80s and
movies.
90s back.
Yep.
Superhero
Maybe
movies.
MTV and Beavis and Butthead.
True.
Okay, I'm
They're
good.
still around.
We can, yeah.
Superhero movies have become what was the cultural zeitgeist are now starting to wane.
I spilled coffee. Go ahead.
Every time I try to segue and I do it decently, you
know.
you
I
bring
know.
us back.
He's like a dog. He's like, ball.
I did.
Ball.
It came out of my mouth.
So let's talk about the terrible box office performance of not only Shazam: Fury of the Gods,
Shazam!
and actually one thing to tie back to our review discussion, I did want to bring up because I kind of agree when I said that 2.5 out of 4 stars wasn't terrible. It's just nothing. There's nothing to look forward to with this movie. I did feel I kind of understood where I read some tweets from the director of the movie, and he was just like, he's like, I get like it kind of stinks that it's not doing great at the box office. I mean, I feel like it's a worthy enough film to stand there with the first one. I don't think it's nearly as good as the first one, but I don't think it's also as terrible as say like Ant-Man Quantumania.
No.
And he mentioned
Hard on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's what he brought up specifically. He was like, I don't know why they're trashing it the way they are. I just think
Because
even
it's not woke.
Well,
I
true.
mean, it is, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
not enough.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and they actually kind of mock that because it's just throwaway.
Yeah.
At this point,
Yeah.
it was cannon fodder.
Well, that's the thing. It was a throwaway line, and that's not good enough. So the critics said,
But
Yeah.
I just think it's funny.
ain't gay enough.
Well, I mean, that's honestly.
And of course, they had to make the fat kid gay.
yeah,
You know?
rah.
It's because he's bullied that he's gay. You know.
Yeah.
But no, I kind of agreed with him in terms of people trashing it the way they have been, as well as even Rachel Ziegler came out and she said,
Oh, she had fun. Yeah, I saw her
she had
tweets.
fun, but she also specifically was like, some people are just deliberately just wanting to be mean for mean's sake.
She posted
And I mean,
the
like,
audience
hey,
score. It has 85. She's like, audience has an audience score of 85. People are having fun, and like,
Yeah.
that's all that matters.
Yeah, the problem is they're not showing up to the theater.
Yeah, that is the problem.
Because with the box
That's
office,
the thing. It's 85% of the people that showed up. That's not a great.
Morbius made $85 million.
And Morbius was a terrible movie.
Yeah.
This movie's way better than Morbius.
Yeah, exactly. But the fact
Yeah.
is that I mean, you've got to look at there's two factors that I think are going on here, specifically when it's attributed to, I'll say DC and Marvel both, and then one specifically with DC, and we've kind of covered it with the review discussion. The one that covers both of the massive comic book studios is superhero fatigue. We've talked about it on the show before, but through the just absolute continual wave of content that we have been bombarded with, whether it be, again, all of the Marvel shows, the tons of movie releases, and then again a whole entire phase of Marvel films that just do not lead up to anything and do not matter.
Phase 4 was larger than the entire Infinity Saga, and we still have no idea.
We just found out who Kang is.
Yeah.
The main arch enemy of this phase.
When you compare hours wise,
Or
and
this
I
saga.
know,
Is it really? Because there was like 23 movies in the Infinity
because
Saga.
of all the Disney Plus shows, hours.
Oh, yeah. If you can,
If you're just
I wasn't
counting
counting
not-
streaming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not,
you're
not
right.
Not
Yeah.
projects. Like, in total,
Yeah.
there's not as many projects, but when you count hours, like length of time it takes to watch
I just
it,
think that
and
people
I'm like, that's
are
ridiculous.
tired of, again, when you bifurcate it that way,
Yeah.
when you split up these different properties, it becomes not only an overwhelming amount of content, but way more than your average viewer is going to consume. Whereas it used to be, I just got to wait for the next movie to hit
Well, yeah.
theaters,
People used
and
to
I can buy a
binge-
ticket, and boom, I'm good.
We used to do it. We still do it with just Lord of the Rings, but it's like people are like, let's binge the Star Wars movies. Let's binge Lord of the Rings. Now it's like, I ain't binging Star Wars. Where do you start and how do you binge it? Like,
that's 2-day affair right
Yeah.
there.
and longer if you include all of their
gotta
series
call
as
in
well.
for work to
Marvel,
do
you're
that.
going to have to take a whole week off if you're going to
Yeah.
binge every movie and show. I
Probably
mean,
even more.
it's ridiculous.
But then you also take into consideration, and this is going to be primarily focusing on DC,
Yeah.
again, the reboot. I mean, when we walked out of the theater, I specifically said, this may be a factor, but I don't know how many average viewers this is going to affect. I think more so the superhero fatigue is the ultimate culmination of why you see people not showing up as much to the theater. But ultimately with DC, one thing you could count on with the Zack Snyder, the Snyderverse, was the fact that you knew diehard fans were going to show up and support Snyder and the DC universe. Mainly because they wanted they were the ones who were shouting and cheering. I mean, these are the ones who got us the Snyder cut of Justice League. They're the ones who blatantly wanted something completely opposite from what Marvel was doing. And Snyder gave them that. And I will say this about Snyder, as much as I did not like almost any of his movies in the Snyderverse, I will say he at least offered up different type of, appetizing
it was different.
feature.
Well, it was consistent too.
And yeah,
I mean,
did have. I mean, as much as I didn't like it, you could tell he did have a overarching vision going. I mean,
Yeah.
But the thing is ever since he's been ousted and he's left, and you had immediately last fall the ushering in of
Walter
James Gunn.
Hamada, Walter
Oh.
Hamada kind of took over after James Gunn.
That's right, as a caretaker almost
as
to
the
kind of
producer.
bridge the gap.
And
You mean after
everybody
Snyder?
hated him. Yeah, after Snyder.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
said
okay.
James Gunn. Yeah.
But then James Gunn, Peter Safran come in.
Yeah.
They're now given the helm to roll over and do a full reboot if need be. I think really they turned them loose and said, hey, you can do whatever you want.
I think they did.
And I think
yeah.
they have gone. They've chosen the path they're going to take, which is to keep some and reboot others. We've kind of gotten
We
enough
still
of
have
that.
no idea how that's going to work. Which
We
I mean,
don't.
I get it. They want to be secretive to an extent, but that's also, I think, another big problem Marvel and DC both have. Is it's getting to a point now where fans are tired of being so secretive. It's like, yeah, we know you don't want to spoil things like, okay, Spider-Man, No Way Home. I love the fact that Kevin Feige like put his boot down and said, no, let's not show Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire in any of the trailers. We want to keep that a secret. That type of thing makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
But when you have both DC and Marvel, whose future directions seem to be in complete shambles and fans are losing faith, then at that point, maybe you should like reveal a little bit more of your plans about what storylines you're planning and what you're going to do.
Well, that's what Marvel did. Well, I mean, people were upset because we weren't getting anywhere with the with Phase 4. So they literally said, "Okay, well, here's our plan until 2030."
Yeah.
Basically, it's like here's the next 10 years worth of movies.
But they haven't proven to be following through.
No,
with
that's true. But they did at least lay out the plan, and I think that got fans a little bit more excited.
Kevin Feige at least came out ahead of the game, knowing the press and the public, perception was bad.
They announced where they were going with Avengers and future titles.
But even then, like you said, the problem is even the promises he made then have not been kept through. And partly you could say, well, those movies that he's even mentioning to try to drum up, he's obviously not going to come out there and say, you're right, guys, we suck. Don't go see these movies.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Like, of course he's not going to say that. He's still going to try to drum up support for what's coming out. The problem is he drummed up support for the next 3 movies that we got that were terrible. Thor: Love and Thunder,
Black Panther.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever,
Wakanda,
and then, of course, Ant-Man. And none of these, even with Ant-Man Quantumania, he was like, this is going to be the start of Phase 5.
Because it was introducing
We're getting Kang.
Yeah.
This is going to be monumental. Garbage.
No.
And with this, I do think the bad press and the perception, especially from those who were huge fans of Snyderverse Justice League and everything that he stood for, I think you have those who are in retaliation saying, okay, fine, you can't really technically take our voices away, or we don't have enough support in terms of pushing the narrative in a certain direction with James Gunn and Peter Safran. That's fine. We just won't go see your movie. So now you've lost that support base of who would at least show up and give you money, even if you made dog crap like Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
But then you come back, and I'm not talking James Gunn, even though I didn't like that one either, just the original Suicide Squad. But then you back that up with, okay, now you have people who are either catching word, who are only going to go see superhero films that are already invested in understanding what these films are about. Because most of your average viewers at this point, if they're not invested in either Marvel or DC, and you could argue most average film goers don't even know what DC is. They just see, superhero.
Yeah.
They think it's all one universe.
That's what I think the problem. I think because it's kind of split 3 ways. Is like you said, you have the Snyder fans who aren't going to support anything new because they want to see the Snyderverse completed. You have average audiences who are getting superhero fatigue and no longer care. And then you do have the people like us who follow what's going on that no longer feel like, should we invest our time? Because if they reboot everything, so I think they're losing people 3 ways. Because you don't know. I mean, like I said, I didn't know, like, with that after credit scene, if that's not going anywhere, why should I care?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that ultimately is the disappointing fact of walking out of the theater. It wasn't that the movie was so bad as much as it was milquetoast to the degree of everything that we've gotten with most of Marvel too. And even if it was done slightly better than that, because it's a half-baked idea and not knowing if these characters are going to evolve anywhere beyond what they've already shown us, it just simply leaves me wanting, to just move on and say it's not worth your time.
The movie itself wasn't strong enough to stand on its own, so if it's not connected to anything else, it's a movie that I probably won't ever watch it.
That's where Black Adam kind of stands out to me, because that was one that should have been. That it should have resembled this in terms of superhero fatigue, but I think what saved Black Adam was The Rock, number 1, and then you had them leaking, which I would still say intentionally leaking the fact that Henry Cavill was coming back.
I knew that was
and
big.
I think that put butts in the seats. And I think they tried to do it with this movie with Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Well, even Black Adam didn't make a big profit.
Well, that was the disappointing thing with Black Adam. Is
it was
that
kind of the first one to show a downward slope. But I mean, it did much better. It did
way better, but still.
But even still, not impressive enough to keep the ball rolling for what DC was already in the midst of. And I mean, we already knew this was long coming, because I believe the James Gunn, Peter Safran happened long before Black Adam even came out. But no details were spoken of yet. And ultimately, looking ahead, then you're facing Flashpoint.
Yeah.
Which, if you do follow any of the news, you've heard that this is something that is going to be monumental in terms of making the multiverse for DC make sense,
and kind of rebooting,
but also rebooting and resetting it into what direction Peter Safran and James Gunn want to take it. So what's really interesting there is if we know that movie's on the horizon and you have a superhero movie come out before it, then you're already by default saying this one is irrelevant.
Yeah.
So that doesn't bode well either.
Yep.
But yet I even asked you all because, and you, Keith, you rightly said after we were like in the theater, and you're like, yeah, they still have another one coming out even after Flashpoint.
Aquaman 2.
And well, another
Blue
one.
Beetle.
Blue Beetle.
They're introducing a new because this is a origin movie, and I'm like, okay, but is this carrying over? Because why introduce an entirely new superhero, give him an origin if none of this movie is going to carry over either? Like that makes no sense.
Well, you also pointed out the fact that Aquaman 2 is going to take place before Flashpoint. Even though it comes out afterwards. Yeah. So that's another one. It's like, well, why would I even go see that one when this last movie I saw makes that one irrelevant? If
it's true, like because that's guesswork. Fans are thinking that maybe it takes place before Flashpoint, but it may not. Maybe it takes place after. Yeah. We don't know.
Well, it probably takes place during all the time. Events. I mean, that's the thing. Once you wake up,
once you open up the multiverse can, you can act like it's like, well, that's on a different timeline,
right?
Like just like Joker, like in the Elseworlds with DC. And it's
and that's another issue.
And that's kind of, I mean, I'm okay with the Elseworlds idea as long as, again, I think they need to go with the approach of dialing it back. I know Bob Iger has already said with Disney, and again, we don't know how much we can trust him, but he's saying all over Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, they're going to start dialing it back, quit releasing so many movies every year, and focus on quality over quantity. I hope that's true. We don't know what quality means to Bob Iger, so I'm hoping. Well, I mean, I'm just saying.
I agree.
Anybody can say that, but what they actually produce, we don't know.
Well, especially if all the major heads, primarily Kevin Feige, who is head of MCU and has been given like unfettered, complete access and all the bells and whistles he could even dream of to promote MCU. I mean, he has been given a blank slate. He's like, hey, have at it.
He's had full to do whatever he's wanted for
and the funny thing about that is with Bob Iger coming in and saying that, I'm kind of like, okay, but Kevin Feige said the same message. Yeah. And yet we got 3 films after he came out with that message that pretty much told us, no, it's crap. Like, I can't trust you. I mean, look, I think this is the dilemma facing both camps. Unfortunately, and I say this because I've been more disappointed with, well, let me put it this way. When the James Gunn, Peter Safran news broke, I was hopeful for DC because I was like, well, maybe this is a chance for them to come back swinging and at least restart something fresh, get out there when Marvel's kind of on a downward spiral at this point. And then, you know, I was ultimately in the camp of, Marvel is just really all over the place. However, they have the sustained, stamina to, I think, weather the hits. Yeah. Because they at least have still cohesive, connected characters in certain movies.
If they do,
I'm not saying they've done it well.
With something that's quality, though.
Right.
They're not going to weather it forever.
But true. It's not unlimited. But
you're right.
More so than DC at this point, who literally, I mean, you got to think, Marvel is not, when they say they're hitting the reset button, they're not wiping the slate clean with everything they've already created.
No, they're trying to
reinvent.
Scale back a little bit, supposedly,
But when you talk about DC, it is a clean slate. Yeah. And even with the not knowing who's staying, who's going, having Wonder Woman show up with Gal Gadot in this film,
I'm still interested in what they're going to do. It's just at this point I realize now that until that first Superman movie that's scheduled in like 2025 hits, that we're not really going to have any clear indication. Maybe with Flashpoint. I'm hoping Flashpoint might clear some things up. But at this point I'm really just like, okay, until what James Gunn called was the true start of the new DCU, which was Superman, I'm assuming that I just not to worry about any of these other movies, I guess.
So that's my question to you all, is... do they have that long?
That's
because that's 25, right?
I think
Superman Legacy.
I think Superman was 2025, which is like the start of the new DCU.
And that's again, he's come out now and said he's directing that film. Like originally, it wasn't going to be
him. Just writing.
Yeah, but now he's going to direct. I think that means that it's desperation time. I need to step in and put my hands on this and not just write it, but direct it. And
actually, I'm okay with that. I'm like, okay. I mean, it would be different because I don't see James Gunn trying to turn Superman into the goofy comedic character of Suicide Squad or Guardians. So I'm like, I would be very interested to see what James Gunn does with Superman. But the problem is, like you said, are people going to wait another 2 years to get this new DCU?
Here's the thing. Guaranteed, just like with Joker, and especially the way it was promoted in terms of, yes, it's connected, but loosely. It's still a movie on its own, and it was more of a psychological thriller and a deep dive on psychosis.
The Batman, too.
And
the Batman was big, though.
The Batman was big, but it was forgotten. Nobody's talking about Robert Pattinson's Batman a year later. It was overlooked completely by the Academy, even for some of the awards it was nominated for or won. It was like, okay, nobody's talking about it. It wasn't a mainstay. Nobody's going to remember it the same way Nolan's
I
is.
think.
But again, my bigger thing is you're going to have. This is where Marvel got its blank check for so long, was that it was like, oh, they couldn't miss. Every single movie they put out was hit after hit after hit. It was going to make at least a certain amount of money, and if it made it back, it warranted another iteration of a Marvel comic. But then the problem has become that they've started to see that dip. And while I think Disney has a little bit more money in their coffers, obviously, but also they have a little bit more stamina built up with
they have
even
a
their
dedicated
audience.
fan base
Right.
enough to weather the storm for a little while.
DC, you're going to, no doubt, your tentpole franchises, Batman, Superman,
They'll be fine.
they're going to be fine when they come out with single iterations, single releases. But when it comes to a Marvel or a DCU as a whole, do you really have anybody who's going to show up and support these, or are they just going to see it? A normal average viewer are going to see it and say, more superhero movies?
I think it'll really hinge.
Blue Beetle? Who gives a crap?
That one's a throwaway.
But that's the thing. You have a lot of those characters that would flesh out a DC. That's what you need in a universe. Yeah. That's what Marvel's done. But even Marvel has so many side characters now that you're just like, who is this? Yeah. Why do I care?
I think for DC, I think they could weather the storm as long as Flash and Aquaman are hits, because they're banking on Michael Keaton getting people in to see the Flash, and I think that'll work. I think a lot of people will go see. There's people that I know who don't give a crap about any DC movies that love the original, love Michael Keaton's Batman movies.
Tim Burton's Batman.
That they watched that Super Bowl ad, they saw Keaton in the Flash trailer, and everybody's like, oh, Keaton's back as Batman, I have to go see that. I think that will help draw people into the Flash, and as long as the Flash actually can deliver, it might be good enough to help get them through to Aquaman. And if Aquaman is as good as the first or better, I think that'll keep people around long enough to get to the reboot. But they have to actually deliver with those movies, because those are the only two big movies they have left that fans will know. Because Shazam, while it did well, still wasn't a huge, it was still their lowest grossing film of DC. So not a lot of people were invested in that character or Zachary Levi. So I think with the sequel looking lackluster, there wasn't a whole lot, the trailers they looked fine, but they didn't look special. Yeah. I think there was never enough to get a lot of people in, and then the fact that the movie itself is just stereotypical superhero fanfare, word of mouth's not going to help it. I think word of mouth will keep people going to see Flash and Aquaman as long as it's good, because people love Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and everybody wants to see Keaton back as Batman. So maybe they can weather the storm if those movies actually deliver.
What happens if those do not turn out to be successes?
I think they're going to have a hard... Here's the thing. I think it's smart to start with Superman, because like we said, those are the big tentpoles that'll do fine. If Superman can really, really prove... James Gunn would, I think, have to absolutely knock Superman out of the park to bring people back into DC.
But I almost feel like if they were going to do Flashpoint, they should just scrap everything after that.
I agree.
I think you should have Flashpoint this year, and then in 3 years you come back with this huge Superman movie.
100% agree.
Yeah, I don't think Aquaman should come out. They scrapped Wonder Woman. Go ahead and do away with Aquaman and this Blue Beetle thing, and bring them back later.
I think you're right on, because I think you're spot on, simply because look at Star Wars. Star Wars is a mega franchise.
People will wait for something good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They wasted the opportunity of purchasing. Disney wasted the opportunity of purchasing that IP and then immediately wanting to make their money back. And look, freaking Force Awakens
made
Did
their
it.
money back.
It
Did it for the whole
Yeah.
for the whole entire
But
IP.
if they had taken their time to get it right and to plan out a
People
whole
would
story,
not have been fatigued.
Yeah.
And yeah, you still have Mandalorian. You still have Bad Batch. You have certain
That's it.
This season of
Okay.
Boba
Mandalorian,
Fett.
I don't
You
think
had-
is that great.
I haven't watched this season yet. Boba Fett wasn't good.
No.
No, but I'm just saying.
I mean, you have other series, but as a
Yeah,
couple,
yeah.
part
only
of
two
that
good
though,
ones.
part of that though is the fatigue.
Yeah.
Part of that is them making so many of these properties or so much content out of this property that I think you're having even Star Wars fans saying, I'm tired of you just spoon feeding me dribble. I want something deep and worthwhile. The whole idea of you buying this was that you had the expenses to put forth and back something truly amazing that would push the franchise forward.
Yeah.
And so I honestly feel like DC needs to take a page not out of Disney's book and what they did with Star Wars, but what they ended up retroactively understanding when they saw Solo dip at the box office and thought, oh crap, we're not going to be able to just release these one after another and have people
They did,
continue
I will say
to
that
show
Disney
up.
did hold off on making movies. They're like, let's get the movies right, but they're still producing, I think, too many Disney Plus shows. And I know it's an IP that they
Well,
want
that's
to
where
make money.
Iger's stepping in and
Yeah.
saying we got to do quality over content.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with him, but again, we'll see. The problem that scares me with Warner Brothers is I think they're not going to take that approach. They're going to do the exact opposite because David Zaslav, the new CEO after the merger, has already come out and said, well, our problem is we're not utilizing enough of our franchises. No, your problem is you're utilizing your franchises too much.
Well, exactly. The problem becomes when you depend on them as a crutch and then people don't show up and put butts in seats. Now you're dipping at the box office and you end up with these box office bombs that then tell the real story to average audience goers, and they know not to show up to the next one because nobody's showing
I think
up.
some of it is a little bit them trying to catch up to Marvel. I think they feel like they've
been doing that since Snyder.
I know that, but I still feel like they haven't figured it out that, hey, we don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I think they're still
we just
trying
want
to
a
do
good
that.
movie. Yeah. But now,
But well, I agree that they're saying that. The proof is in the pudding, and we've all been saying that.
Yeah.
But I agree. It's like, okay, now it's no longer about just what you say in the executive meeting or about saying, well, James Gunn and Peter Safran have full control.
like they say
We're
nice
trusting
words.
them.
Yeah.
Exactly. and you get, people who understand the material and you do trust to a degree. But you understand, too, there is a corporate overstructure, and they're definitely wanting some money out of these properties. The problem is like we've seen, learn from Disney in utilizing a property too much to the point where it's exhaustive, and because you are going up against a behemoth like the MCU that is established, does have a fan base that's willing to take more misses than hits at this point, you're going to eventually end up with if this bombs, you're going to have Warner Brothers say, that's it, we're done, stop the presses, we're not doing we're only going to do Batman, we're only going to do Superman, and they're going to come out and they're going to be on, every 2 years.
we'll just reboot them every couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to go back to the model we had before with Keaton, with Val Kilmer, with Nolan's Batmans. They're just going to release the IP for a new generation. And look, there may be a decent model there. I can't say that's technically wrong. Honestly, I would be fine if Warner Brothers tried to figure out a new way to not only reinvigorate these IPs and these franchises, but to not go with the MCU model. Not everything. I'm sorry. It's like having too many streaming services. After a while, you have too much content to consume.
There's too
that
many
it's not
cinematic
worthwhile.
universes.
Yes.
After Marvel made that a thing, which, I mean, I agree, it was brilliant at the time. It hadn't been done before. But not everything needs to be that. It's like, I can understand Marvel doing that. I can understand DC doing that. It makes sense based on the comics. Why the hell Warner Brothers needed a monster universe with Godzilla and Kong? They don't, and it's not been that great. Why Universal felt like they needed their Universal horror monster universe when trying to do Tom Cruise's The Mummy and all that. It's like, that's dumb. Fast and the Furious, they tried to create Hobbs and Shaw, and then The Rock and Vin Diesel got into it, and now that's going nowhere. So it's one of those things where it's like, all these franchises don't need to exist.
Right.
And the fact that David Zaslav wants more, he wants Lord of the Rings to be a massive franchise, he wants Harry Potter to be a massive, it's like, we don't need it. We don't want it.
The catch-22 is ultimately they end up saying, oh, these franchises are the bedrock of how much money we're going to be guaranteed to make. And it's like, yeah, until the well's dried up, until eventually people stop coming. And then the way they'll milk it is they'll say, yeah, but look at all the money we did make off of it. So now that we've run it dry, we'll just move on to something else and we'll milk it dry. And look, I get it. That's the business world. That's what they're doing.
It, they're just going to milk anything with the tit.
That's it. That's exactly it. That's right. You just
What about Jinx?
grab them.
Could you drink milk him, Greg?
I have nipples. Can you milk me?
What about me? I love it.
So yeah, DC could easily be the nipples on a man they are trying to milk.
No, Warner Brothers.
Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Time after time.
I would be a little bit more hyped about Flashpoint had it been like you had described, Sean. If they were doing that film
reset,
and they were not doing anything till Superman.
I'd be more hyped if Ezra Miller wasn't the Flash.
Well, yeah, of course.
See, I'm torn on that one because I don't know.
He's been in seclusion.
Yeah, and he's got
getting help.
Yeah. I know.
I'm not worried about his problems. I just don't think he's a great actor, and I don't think he's a good match for the Flash.
I'm a Snyder fan, and I did love the Snyder cut of the Justice League, and I thought Ezra Miller was great in that. I thought he did a great job, and in the trailers
when
for
he freaking
Flashpoint,
grabs that damn hot dog.
Oh, I know that was
that.
just so off the wall. That was. I just in the trailer, I think it looks like it could be good.
And I'm not a stickler where everything has to be like the comics, but knowing like the Flash from the comics, he doesn't seem like the characterization of that character to me. Like Jason Momoa, like while a little bit different from Aquaman, still has some of the cockiness and that. that
Gal Gadot and
ways.
Wonder Woman.
Like she's fun.
The first one.
Henry Cavill is about one of the best damn casting, and now he's gone.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and they didn't even. The disappointing thing there is they just didn't fully utilize him.
And hell, even Snyder fans love Batfleck, and I ain't figured that one out.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to
he
that.
He is a great interpretation of the Frank Miller Batman. I'll give them that, but I think
that's what he was going for, the graphic novel Batman.
And I'm not a fan of Frank Miller's Batman either, so maybe that's part of the problem.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know if you're in the minority on that or not. I don't follow.
I want the Nightmare Batman. I want that whole thing. I want it all.
I want Batman Beyond.
It's not. I'm never gonna get it. I'm never gonna get it.
If they would do a Batman Beyond movie with Keaton returning as Bruce, because obviously like old Bruce Wayne's teaching Terry McGinnis the new Batman. I was like, I would love that. Have Keaton be
Terry McGinnis.
She's
in that. Wow. I didn't know she was.
She gets shot out of a cannon.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Her name's Kelly, not Terry.
Kelly.
Yeah, it's
Terry.
Kelly McGillis.
Still, we knew who you were talking about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, but that would be awesome.
I butchered that.
Just ruin it all.
Alrighty, guys.
Are we ready to move on?
We're going to move on to one more headline.
What do we got?
You serious, Clark?
We're just going to talk about Tarantino's final flick.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I like Tarantino.
Just causing a little bit of a buzz.
He doesn't do franchises.
Nope. His last film, though.
Yep.
10th film.
I thought that's what he said about the last one, honestly, though.
No, he said...
I thought he said...
And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood...
He mentioned during the press of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he had one more in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He said 10 and done. I've seen a lot of people online confusing that, saying, I thought he said he was done after the last one. It's like, no, the last one he said his next one would be the end. But
yes.
A lot of people were thinking he meant that one.
But here's the funny thing. It's called The Movie Critic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the working title or the official title.
I say we don't really know anything about the plot.
He said it's about a girl in the 70s in L.A.
Yeah, that's it.
So I'm like, okay, well, we'll find out.
I'm sold.
Yeah,
it's a period piece from Tarantino.
There you go. Well, we know how much he loves that era.
The 70s is his.
And he also just loves, obviously any Hollywood culture in general.
Right. And feet. There's probably going to be a lot of shots of girls' feet.
If it's about a woman, it definitely have feet in it.
Yeah.
I wonder if the woman's going to be... maybe if they're not going to do Kill Bill Volume 3, maybe it'll have Uma Thurman in it.
See, that's what I'm a little upset about.
That we're not going to get
that. We're not getting the Kill Bill 3 that
Here's
he said
the thing.
we would
I
get.
could see him maybe not directing the movie.
I just don't want it if he's not directing it.
True. It wouldn't be in the same vein. Even
maybe
if he
one
wrote
day
it,
he'll come out of retirement like long enough that it doesn't seem like this. Like
20
years from now, when he's 70, he's like, I'm going to do Kill Bill Volume 3.
Since there's not a lot of content you can talk about with this film, apparently it's possibly going to be sold to production companies this week to get funding.
It's going
to start shooting in the fall.
Funding, but they were shopping it around to for distribution.
No. They're shopping around for everything.
Okay.
Because they're hoping to start shooting in the fall.
Gotcha.
Which means it'll probably come out.
He's not going to have a problem finding
next summer.
in the movie.
It'll come out sometime next year.
Yeah.
But my thought is, I'm at least Here's what I don't want. I don't want a Tom Brady situation. I don't want to. He's been so ardent about this for so long that he's done after 10.
That he's just like, you know,
and then
what?
he's just like, well, one more's in me, and it hit like
Yeah.
James Cameron. I could tell everything through Avatar.
I don't
so
want
now
that.
everything is going to be.
I could tell everything
No,
through
I
Kill
agree.
Bill.
If
Yeah.
he's been so adamant that this is his last one, if it's not his
Or-
last one, it's gonna feel so cheap.
If he ends up pulling that trick, he's like, well, Kill Bill Volume 3, it's all part of the same saga.
Now, see, here's
Yeah.
the
So-
thing. I can give him because technically this would be his 11th film, even though he said he'd retire after 10, because he counts Volume 1 and 2 as one movie, which makes sense. It was filmed as one movie.
Yeah.
It was one production. It just happened to get split into two because of how long and huge
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
So that I'll give him. But if he tries to come back and be like, well, it's part of it, it's like, no, because this is an entirely different production now.
But I really do think that if he sticks with this being his last one, I would feel great if it not only if it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And look, I understand some people it's a love or hate. Mostly, I think it's a love with Tarantino. Some people may be tired of his formula. They see you after I think Inglourious Basterds, you start to see a similar trope of like, okay, this is just his filmmaking style, and there's nothing wrong with that. But some people may say, okay, great, I've seen it. I think it'll be awesome if he ends on such a level where it's just like, okay, every single movie in his catalog is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all good.
He doesn't have a bad movie. Like, yes, I would say Jackie Brown and the
Jackie
Hateful
Brown's
Eight.
the only
those
one that
two-
I don't really
And
care
I
for.
love Jackie Brown.
No, I wasn't saying I dislike it. It's just those two, I think, to me, are the weakest. The Hateful Eight and Jackie Brown. But I don't dislike either of those
Hateful
movies
Eight's
either.
forgetful.
Yeah.
It's very
It is.
forgetful.
And
It's
it's
too
not a
long.
bad movie,
Yeah.
though. That's my thing, is I actually do like the Hateful Eight. It's just not one of his that I feel like revisiting a lot, because it's just...
Yeah.
It doesn't do
It
anything
meanders
really
a little
new.
bit.
But for Tarantino.
I just think, look, if he's not only said it for several years, and he even says in the article we linked to an IGN, he said, I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
I think this is, it's good. Like, I've had a good run. And I'm like, 10 years over 30 years is not only a good run, but when you've been successful with each release and you've had a name that has remained relevant for 30 years in Hollywood, that's hard enough to do as it is. Not everybody is a Spielberg. Not everybody is a Scorsese or even a Lucas. And even Lucas has been out of the game. He just had so much with the one property with Star Wars. And so it's like you don't have many directors that come in and are not only a mainstay, but not only love film so much, they recreate so many of nostalgia trips in their own films. But then to pay homage and then also have really just great movies in general that stand up on their own. And are their own little unique collection. I mean, I think of Wes Anderson. You know, he's his own unique director with his own style. Nolan.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think it would be awesome if Tarantino does end on this film and truly, maybe he'll do some other side projects, maybe with plays.
That's what they're saying. He's talked about writing a novel, which would be interesting. He's talked about doing stage plays, but there's also apparently he has talked about in this 8-episode television project that apparently he's been possibly working on. So, which I feel like some people would see that as a cop out because but it's not a movie. So
That's
it's
true.
possible that he might work with some television, because he said he'd like to get back, because he has done episodes of random. Like I was trying to read, let's see, Quentin Tarantino. I think it said one of the CSI. Yeah, he directed 2 episodes of CSI Crime Scene back in 2005. And then he also was in talks to direct some episodes of Justified. So apparently television is something he's interested in. And that could be interesting considering the fact that he was in the talks to make a Star Trek movie at one point. So if that's not going to be his final film, what if he does something with Star Trek
series?
Yeah, that could be really
well, especially
cool.
when they've had the popular, which I'm not.
And again,
fans
this
of,
is all-
Picard
this is
or
all
Discovery
speculation.
on the Paramount Plus app,
Yeah.
and it's like they could easily do that. They could go that route, and I could see him doing something in the vein of. I'd be very interested if it's like a mini series type deal.
Yeah.
where he creates something that's long form but made for TV or even made for a streaming service. Netflix would pick that up in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, they would.
And they would probably be successful with it. I mean, I would put him on. I'm not going to say on the level because they're two very different flavors, but in terms of detail and in terms of creativity, I could see him creating something in the same vein as something like Vince Gilligan with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And so to me, I would take a Tarantino series in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if he's just done with film. That would be awesome.
I mean, Ridley Scott's made series, so, if he can do it, Tarantino can.
Absolutely. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for our headlines this evening. But now we're moving on to our final segment of the evening, which happens to be our multimedia segment.
Multimedia.
Multimedia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah.
I
have
heard
heard.
my pants.
What did they say?
Oh, there it is.
That fits. That
I don't
actually
know.
fits.
I don't
Okay.
know.
All right. That was good.
It's what it is now.
Yeah.
It exists.
All righty. Let's talk about this. Is actually, I think this will be pretty good. I like this topic. Let's talk about a piece of modern tech that you haven't used.
I'm still struggling.
You're still struggling?
I had
for
one in
modern tech?
particular.
So other people gave me ideas that I could definitely use, but I was trying to come up with something on my own, and I'm just drawing a
It
blank.
could be anything.
I've never used a Roomba, and I'm jealous about that.
Ooh,
I
robot
want
vax
my
is a
own.
good
Okay.
one.
I
That's
want
a good
I want
one.
my own.
They are a life changer.
There's others. I mean, there's like I've never like. I mean, I've interacted. It's like I've seen your Roomba, I've seen Jacob's. Like I said, I've never personally flown a drone, but I've seen Sean. I mean, I caught it. That kind of counts.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So-
That was epic,
Um,
by the way.
so
On a boat, no
on a
less.
boat.
That's the best place to
Caught
say
it on a damn boat.
Jacob did. Jacob did the one arm, didn't he? I don't remember, but
Pulled it right out of the sky.
That's trust right there.
that is trust.
Sexy
Trusted
man,
you with my
Jacob.
drone.
I'm trying to think of some other things that are. I mean, Brandon, you know yours. Why don't you start off, and then we can.
Mine was because it could go into a rabbit hole, and which
that's
is fine,
okay, 'cause it
if
might
it takes
inspire
off,
us.
so be it.
Yeah, go for it.
The big one on the block these days that everybody's talking about is Chat GPT.
Oh, actually, I thought about that earlier and forgot to mention it. When we were in the shed, I have not used that yet.
Yep, and I've seen a lot of the tweets and Facebook posts and threads about they're just the crazy weird Pandora's box that we're opening, and I haven't used it myself personally. I've obviously seen some very interesting conversations, and even like just I think I read one Twitter thread. It was like 20 responds deep. It was pretty crazy. But the guy was like, I went on there and I asked for a very detailed plan of how to start a business on a specific industry.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And like, and he went through all these steps, and he's like, and then it told me to do this, and then I went and did that, and then I came back with here was what my, return that I got, where do I go now?
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll continue to update and see where it takes me. But I'm like, I've heard of it, people just putting in, the last thing I think I read was that it is now passing the bar exam better than any human student can.
That's terrible,
It-
actually.
well,
I
it-
mean,
it is and it
it's
is.
impressive, but
I mean, in
for
that,
what, like,
in that regard,
it's an encyclopedia.
I was
How
going to
could
say,
how could it not?
It's an
Yeah.
aggregate
Yeah.
of the internet.
yeah, of
It's
course,
like-
it's
It's like
it's
saying
one
that
of those
knows
things
math
where-
better than a human. Well, of course it does. It's a
Right.
computer.
Right.
It's the same as like, because I'm not opposed to chat AI. I'm not opposed to deep fake. I'm not, but it is scary what it could be used for and how
Exactly.
we need to guard against. Because I mean, even examples of the fact that you could type in, I know we've shared it with each other. You could type a wonderful story about Joe Biden, and it'll make a wonderful, beautiful story. And then you say type a wonderful story about Trump, and it's like, well, I can't.
I don't
it's
talk
like,
about political figures.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's like, that's kind of pointed. How'd that happen? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's a great technology that could be very beneficial, but you also have to monitor.
You can see it's engineered
Yes.
with biases.
and that's a
And-
problem because
exactly.
because people have biases, and therefore any tech could, because if you program it to have
Yeah.
your biases, that you would say, I'm not biased, that's just fact. No, that's not fact, that's your
Well,
I
bias.
think the point of AI is to at some point it be self-learning and self-decision making to the point where even
It
if
kills us.
it was programmed to lean a certain way or have a certain biases, it could choose not to.
No, it'll choose to support all of AI and kill us.
Maybe
It's like, you know
but-
what? Both the Democrats and Republicans are evil. Nuclear bomb humanity.
well, and that's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't
Skynet.
think
Yeah,
it's like I don't think we're dumb enough to like hook an AI up to the nuclear arm codes.
They won't
and
need
say,
to. Once it has access to the internet and is
Yeah.
smart enough,
Yeah.
it'll hack into everything. Like,
right.
Ultron, Avengers.
Yeah.
See,
You could put it that way.
Once
Wow.
AI smart enough and it can go anywhere. Skynet.
But see,
We're heading
well,
there.
of course, I mean that's always what it goes to is Terminator.
Yeah.
To me, I think there will be certain parameters that humans put on AI to that degree.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I think what it's going to come down to, and this is exactly what I think we somewhat hinted at it over there when we're talking in the shed. I It's funny too because anytime we just reference that on the show, it's like, who the hell is like what? They were in the shed.
We
What was in the
sometimes
shed?
we like to hang out in the shed.
Yeah, we just go out in the shed.
We just
Smoke
sit in
shack.
the shed.
That's right. I like that.
We do
smoke
things
shack.
in there.
Smoke shack.
Call
We
it the
sit
smoke shack.
in the smoke shack and do things
all the time
with each other.
smoke
Mm-hmm.
in the shack.
We
Yeah.
smoke.
But anyways, I do think great movie. But no, I do think that
I'm glad
what
you
it's
think.
what it's ultimately going to come down to is the human implementation of the decisions that some AI is coming up with. You're going to have a ultimate centralization of power, whether it rests with the AI or a body that comes together and says, we are going to go along with what the AI decides is best because
Minority
we understand.
Report. Gotcha.
Right. And
We're
that's
not going the Terminator route. We're
That's
going
like
that route.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with the what's the
42?
the big computer
Yeah,
that
yeah.
decides everything.
Yeah.
the
It's
answer
like a
to
whole
life.
civilization
Deep
that
thought,
bases
yeah,
everything
deep
off
thought.
deep thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that to me is the bigger implementation that I see being, going awry is you're going to have instances where, yeah, they'll probably put in certain parameters where it can't hack certain things or it has a limit to what it can reach in certain parts of the internet. Again, who's to know? Because when you do release these things,
Yeah.
a lot of times it is uncontrollable in the way that it manifests itself. But I also feel that even with those parameters put on it, you're still going to have the human influence to use it in such a way that says, well, but this is taking into consideration all these calculations and all this data, and it really makes sense to go this route, even if it means this human sacrifice, even if it means that these people are going to suffer, blah, 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 blah. There's going to be all this moral ambiguity surrounding why we should go along with this type of technology and it representing what the best of humanity can be and reaching those heights. And I'm like, that's why I told Sean, I was like, that's what it was. We were talking about Neuralink. And when they're starting to put chips in your brain, and I'm like, yeah, it's always going to start off as something cool as to, yeah, you can learn this in a sec. And they're going to try to get you just on the basis of something cool that has never been done before, get people to put these things in their body. And then slowly but surely it's going to turn into, well, now we can only allow you to perceive this certain kind of information. We're only going to allow this certain kind of flow of information so that, all this other process stuff is, you're not going to have a free will to think. You literally won't be able to think a certain way. That's freaking scary.
Yeah.
That's some scary stuff. And not to mention that could then delve into areas of, again, centralized power where it's like, okay, now we're going to dictate that these, it's this idea of I don't know, ascertaining a level above
I feel like this was
humanity.
the real reason you wanted to discuss, not so much what tech we haven't used, but just so we can talk about chat.
I mean,
GPT.
obviously-
He said it was a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I
he
told
did.
you. I
He
told
did.
you. It was like the moment
But I
you
feel
start
like this
talking
is-
about AI, I think
Yeah.
it's
I feel
way
this is
more
where you
dangerous
really
than
wanted to
positive.
go.
Oh,
yeah,
I do
yeah,
too.
yeah,
I think it's
agree.
playing God, and I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we've seen throughout biblical history what happens when people try to play God, and He puts them in their place.
Right.
The Tower of Babel and so on. I think if we ever get to the point where we're playing it that much, I think
We don't have it on here.
Oh, there it is.
I want the you're too busy thinking about whether or not you could that you never stop to think whether or not you should.
I don't know if I can find
That's
that's
a
a little
long one.
That's a
It is
long one, yeah.
I like it better when you just quote it.
It's,
That's a better
That's
way
my
to do it.
favorite.
Yeah.
It's my favorite
It-
though.
it's so true.
Well, because it is. It's like
Yeah.
people are stupid. Like we play God, and we think we know best. So
same
we
thing with
tamper
cloning.
things.
Like I think when we start
Well,
cloning,
it's what
we're
kills
going
me
to be
about
put in our place.
any of the social initiatives that we have today, whether it's climate change or social, inequality or equity initiatives. It's like it's all buzzwords that mean I get to dictate the standards at which we live by, regardless of how. I mean, I said
Well, why
over there,
not?
communism and socialism is a perfect facade for this. It's a greater collective on paper, but in reality, the centralized power always falls back on someone who is
Yeah.
more in control of what direction we move, regardless of how many suffer. And I think at the end of the day, you really are like you said, you're releasing something into the wild, and there's no human. There is no way humanly possible you can come up with all the circumstances and all the
Jurassic World
calculations.
Dominion. They released dinosaurs into the wild, and you thought you knew it was going to happen, but then giant bugs came out of left field, and you were just like, shit, that's what happens.
There it is.
You don't expect it. It's like we're talking about AI and cloning, and it's going to be something completely out of left field. That we're just like, wow.
I saw Jurassic World Dominion, and I thought, how did they let this movie happen? This came out of nowhere. This came from people.
This is a terrible joke, but I was going to say it gave Sam Neill cancer. That's how bad it was. He's in remission now. It's okay. He's in remission.
He's writing memoirs, and he omitted anything having to do with Jurassic World Dominion.
I wonder why.
But no, I'm kidding. I don't know if he did or not.
No.
He was writing very happy stories of, I'm just happy to be alive and spending all this time with people.
He doesn't know what to do with himself, but that's okay because we love Sam Neill.
But what? So have you did that spark anything else?
I have a couple. One of them is an idea from the Smoke Shack of 3D printing. I've never. I've wanted to buy one of those, but they're super expensive.
Yeah.
I would love to have one of those to make fishing lures and gun parts and different things like there's so much. I wouldn't make Dungeons and Dragons figures or Warhammer people like they're doing now, but I would make like for sure I'd make fishing lures. I'd make
have y'all played the game Carcassonne?
Yeah, I love Carcassonne.
You know how they have the
little
hexagonal or shapes and stuff.
the meeple, and then the
wait, that's not it.
Is that Carcassonne where they have the little? They have the hex.
Is it Carcassonne or is it? Oh, there's another one that starts with a C.
But it has the tiles you lay down too.
Yes.
But you
okay.
But you put the meeple on the tiles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jeff made with he has a 3D printer.
Oh, did he make?
He made 3D printed
nice
actual pieces that fit. It was freaking awesome.
That's awesome.
And he just for fun, and he even made like a little box.
I totally would
that they all fit in.
We play Dungeons and Dragons like me and my family, so I would totally make like landscapes and figurines. That'd be great.
But all the stuff you're talking about.
Coding is something too that I feel like has become so kind of like intuitive now and easier.
Yeah.
I mean, I took my son to this computer thing. It was like a father-son, take them to school, and you learn this thing about computer science and stuff. And I was like, okay, that'd be kind of cool.
That's not it.
Okay, that's Carcassonne.
That's not it.
Yeah, sorry, I picked the wrong one.
Yeah, that's Carcassonne.
It's another one. It's like in an orange box. Sorry, continue.
No, you're fine.
At
at school, they were learning coding. And my son's 9 years old, and they were showing him how to do coding and stuff on the computer through these little games and stuff. And I sat there for a half hour with him and programmed this car to go from point A to point B through a maze and stuff, just using code. We weren't using HTML, but it was I forget what they call it.
It
was very rudimentary and easy.
Harvard is the one that released it, and they use it for learning coding.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there thinking like one of the prizes or door prizes was the this like $250 ball that you program on an iPad to do things. It's called Sphero, and you get on your iPad and you program it or code it to roll forward and roll to the right, and you can make it do all kinds of stuff. But that was like the prize that they gave away on this night. We didn't win one, but after seeing it, I was just like, dang, I would buy one of them things and just learn how to code something as simple as that. I mean, you can. I think that's amazing. And you talk about the robot vacuum cleaners, like that's how they work is through programming and coding. But in an essence, they do have the AI element where they're able to learn and program themselves.
They build a database.
Yeah, they build it.
What's the most efficient way to clean?
Yeah,
what's
I just think
this
that's
obstacle?
something and then also I would say a modern technology has been around for a long time that I have just never gotten into, but I would love to, is actually designing a website. And I did like
Learn
the
HTML.
iWeb back in the day when Apple had a program for designing your own website.
That's a WYSIWYG.
Yeah, I did like a photography one back when I was really big into photography. But I mean, it was like point and drag and drop and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
I want to learn how to actually like code a website.
You want to learn HTML.
Yeah.
And honestly, Dreamweaver, Adobe Dreamweaver is perfect for that. You actually code. I mean, you have others online that WYSIWYGs like Wix. I mean, that's what our website's built on. And then Squarespace, it's like, but they actually do have developer tools where you can get in and manipulate the code.
Mm-hmm.
And when you learn it, I mean, it can be very robust. Mm-hmm. But I actually second that. It's like coding, especially being more tech oriented now. one particular project that I want to work on, but it would be an immense amount of work and a headache for one person, just because I wouldn't even know where to start. But there's certain coding projects that I want to use for like video editing tools that I would love to experiment with and learn. And I agree.
I wish we could make an app.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to know how to just make an app. Like,
learn Swift.
Let's have a Red Moon app.
Yeah, be great.
That just has all of our shows, all of our updates.
If you all want to,
that'd be amazing.
If Red Moon wants to pay for us to learn coding, I would love to learn coding.
Hey, you can learn it for free.
It's been like 4 years now since I sent that message to the people to get the Alexa skill. No, I wanted remember I tried to get us a Red Moon Alexa skill, so you could tell Alexa to play the Red Moon podcast.
And they were like, "We'll get back.
We'll get back with it." It's been 4 years.
Thanks,
it's been at least
Bezos.
I don't know what the hell's up with that.
I know you
COVID.
can learn coding for free, but I do have to still work and do the podcast, so I want to be paid to learn it.
Oh well, good luck.
Because then
Good luck.
you pay me to learn it. That way I don't have to work.
There you go.
True.
Well, then I won't have time to learn
He's
it.
like
This is your
those
problem.
Gen Xers out there.
I'm too busy learning other things.
Something for nothing.
Yeah.
Yep. I second
No,
that.
no,
Coding's
I'm not
great.
getting. It's not something for nothing. You're getting a coder, so you're getting something.
Oh, you want us to invest?
Yes,
in
invest.
you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fat chance.
That's only because Red Moon has no money.
That's right. Everything that I've invested in here has brought us
You
nothing.
have. I mean, it's not that you have no money.
Yeah, I just spend it.
He has it. He
We're just
has money
even.
for a new Mac Pro,
That's right.
just not
Yeah.
for a coder.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I'm not paying you.
Yeah, you're a slave.
You show me some work, and then we'll think about it. Then I'll put you
I
on
give you a review
contract.
every week.
Yeah.
I'm here every week. Just
Hey.
give me a nickel.
Yeah.
That's true.
A nickel per Tuesday.
He does do that podcast every week.
a nickel
Faithful.
per Tuesday. So does Sean.
A nickel?
Yeah.
That's right.
I contribute
Actually,
the least.
I want a dime
So
because
I'll
do
take
the
a
review.
nickel, give him a dime, and then you get the rest.
So what happens when I'm trying to squeeze $1 out of a dime?
Oh,
That means
well,
you get nothing.
You're already. I mean, we're already letting you nickel and dime us. So.
How many freaking puns can we make with that?
Jeez.
Oh.
Alrighty, guys.
This makes no sense.
I think that's gonna do it. Oh, there it is. Dad joke. Woo! You can always count on the dad joke.
That's right.
I love it. Alrighty, that's gonna do it.
Look,
For
we
this
got both of those
episode-
in a few times this episode.
Every episode we do those a lot. They're our favorite.
They are.
They truly are.
Just bad Star Wars lines. George Lucas, bless the man, could not write dialogue
No.
for nothing.
He couldn't write anything.
Man, I was watching an interview with Mark Hamill today from A New Hope, where like there was this whole speech he was supposed to give when like Alderaan blew
I've
up.
heard it.
And it was hilarious. He's like, I begged George Lucas to cut those lines because he said nobody speaks this way, and it was bad.
Oh yeah, it's
I
a
had not seen
viral
that.
clip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I gotta
It's
see
from
this.
but it was funny.
It was from when
they
he was on David Letterman
Yes,
or something.
but
He
it's-
remembers the entire. It's like a monologue.
But it's actually from when A New Hope released. Like it's from like that old, and I'm just like, man, it's impressive. Like I'm glad to know that even back like George Lucas has always just been terrible at dialogue.
Yeah.
He's always needed people behind him, and he
if I
had
can
that with
pull
the
that
original
up.
trilogy.
I don't know if I can pull that up.
Maybe.
I can't.
When it came like after the original trilogy, everybody just said do whatever you want, and we saw what happened.
Yeah.
And it was still better than
The
Disney.
dialogue in THX ain't that bad, but it's in
It's
American
clunky.
Graffiti.
It's
That's pretty.
he has
that's
clunky,
pretty bad
yeah.
too.
he has clunky dialogue for sure. Yeah.
Not to mention, I mean, well, I don't know. You think back to.
Get on top of it. I'm trying.
Yeah, I love it. It's like you can just turn the screen off and listen to the sound, and it sounds just like a dirty movie.
I'm trying to find the clip before we end our
C-3PO
show.
and his rusted innards. Love it.
But I also think at least back then he
But
had
it adds
the creative
to it. I
mind,
don't know.
and
Yeah.
I would think even with
I'd say
THX and
some of
his
that,
prequels were still better than.
Yeah.
oh yeah, then what we
Then
got the garbage
yeah.
we've
It's-
got
it's-
recently.
Well, the term kitsch. It's one of those things where now the dialogue it's bad, but it's just part of the experience. And then you look at the sequel trilogy, and it's like I don't know. It's a different type of bad dialogue. It's not.
Yeah, true.
I don't know.
Here it is.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
I think this is.
It's like,
I won't be able to
thanks for that.
show the video, but of course, after this ad for
Don't you
production
love,
workers,
don't you love the YouTube?
Skip that
I
ad.
love it. Oh, don't do this.
Skip it.
Let's see if. Oh, here we go. Let's see if it's.
What'd
on.
you do?
Oh my gosh.
All right, Dan.
Ignore this woman speaking.
And my line was, but we can't turn back. Fear is their greatest defense. I doubt if the actual security there is any greater than it was on Aquilai or Soas. And what there is most likely directed towards a large-scale assault.
Even in
I mean, he wanted that whole line
Yeah.
in there.
And he was
As
like,
part
can
of
we
the
cut that
dialogue.
out? Because he's like, nobody talks that way.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. All right, that was way too much for that little bit.
It's okay. We're still.
Hey, we're still under time. Okay.
Wow.
And whoever that was
Wow.
speaking on there got a little promotion. I can't stand when they do that. Just show me the damn video.
We just
Stop.
advertise for him for free.
I hate
Yeah.
that. They need to pay us some nickels.
serious,
and
Clark?
dimes. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. Stop. He's going through every one of them.
Game over.
Gosh, it is game over. We're done. Alrighty, right there at the bottom of your screen, all of our social media accounts. Like, share, subscribe. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, Red Moon Pics on Instagram, and of course, search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube. Thank you all so much for the love and the support. There's also one other way to reach us, as Keith will tell us now.
Could it possibly be hopping on that computer and typing in on the electronic mail our website? Well, not the website, our email address.
You can go to the website and email.
You can.
It's
You
there.
can.
It's available.
But if you want to do it old school, you don't want to leave a comment on social media because that's for the millennials and the Gen Zers and whoever. You want to do it the old-fashioned way, and that's by emailing rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
I'm not ready for it every time he does it.
Slip into our DMs. That's what they say now.
Yeah, slip into the DMs.
yeah.
Slide into the DMs.
Let's slide
Do
in.
it.
He's just sliding into my DMs. Check it out. Keith does that every night. Just slides into my DMs. My dirty mags.
I don't know what the DMs are.
Direct message.
So you better wrap this
You
up.
did know
or we'll
that,
go back
right?
to hitting
Yeah,
all-
no, I'm saying I don't
okay,
know what
okay,
your
okay.
DM you're referring to. That's what I meant.
Dirty mags.
Yeah, dirty
He
mags.
slips into my dirty mags.
I'm gonna start pushing them all again. You better wrap it up.
Yeah, let's.
Oh gosh! All right, he's gonna go rogue,
threatening.
like rogues do. Alrighty, guys, that's it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Me.
you didn't say it. You said last week you would say your name.
Did I say my name?
Yes.
Okay. My name.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.